I'll introduce myself very quickly. I'm Jason Barnard. I'm English. I live in France. I'm a consultant. I give conferences and I write for these people. Currently, I'm doing a series of articles on SEMrush on their blog, all about this topic. So far, I've written 4. I think I'm going to write another 5 or 6. I run a research company called Calicube Pro. The aim is to research exactly what I'm talking about today. So, moving on to the presentation. Here's what we're going to look at. I'll let you read it. Okay, that's nicely structured. What is answer engine optimization? Machine learning and voice search, the move to answer engines, the one AEO strategy, what about existing SEO tactics, and the takeaway. Answer engine optimization. Well, there. You can put whatever word you want there. If we remember that somebody who is searching on Google or on Bing is expressing a problem or a question, and they're looking for a solution or an answer, things start to make more sense. Both of these machines seek to give their users the best results as fast as possible and provide the answer. Google both want to provide the answers directly. They aim to become answer engines. We tend to think of Google as a search engine, but in fact, right from the start, they were positioning themselves, they were thinking about being an answer engine. So it's not that they're completely changing their point of view, it's simply that they can now do it. So, why now? Why is it now that they can do it? What changes have come in the last 2-3 years that have made them able to move from search engine to answer engine? 2 things: machine learning and voice. Machine learning is an absolute revolution at the moment. It's taken enormous steps forward. I don't know if you've heard the story about AlphaGo. AlphaGo Zero. Who has? I'll tell you really quickly. AlphaGo plays Go, game of Go, most complicated game we can think of for human beings. More possibilities than there are atoms in the universe. A couple of years ago, Google managed to beat the world champion. Facebook were trying it, they didn't manage it. Google managed to beat them. AlphaGo Zero, 1 year later, beats AlphaGo 100% of the time. That was all using machine learning. The difference between the 2 machines, is immense. AlphaGo took 3 days to learn how to beat. AlphaGo Zero took 3 days to learn how to beat AlphaGo. When you consider that it took 30 years between IBM beating Garry Kasparov at chess to being able to beat the world champion of Go, and then 2 years for the champion of Go in computers to be beaten by the new champion of Go, you realize how fast this is moving. So, here are the technologies that are allowing machine learning to really take off. Big data, big queries, big databases, BigQuery, and data flow. Basically what that means is that Google can catch, store, analyze enormous amounts of data, and this is the big one, in real time. In the past, we talked about data lakes, i.e. we store data and then we analyze them. Here we're talking about data rivers where the rivers flow past, and we analyze it as it goes past. That's a phenomenally big difference. So at the end, we get machine learning, which is another technology, and it relies on all of this, because all of a sudden, not only have we got the technology to learn for a computer, we have the data and the capacity to store and catch that data in real time. So, machine learning. Computers are able to analyze in a very intuitive human manner vast amounts of data. And when you think about how much data Google has, how much data it can analyze, and how quickly it does it, think about real-time traffic on Google Maps. It's a phenomenal amount of data. It basically uses everybody's Android phone, sees where they are, how fast they're moving, how fast they should be moving, and calculates whether there's a traffic jam or not. And it does that across so many different domains. So you have machine learning, and it allows Google to do three things very, very, very effectively. Understanding user intent. Here I've used a nice image of RankBrain. And this is word vectors. Basically what Google is now able to do is understand human language, human intent, especially when the intent or the query is implicit. So it's moved from having to guess, more or less, what the users are looking for, to being able to analyze and understand what they're looking for. Understanding the available options. This is a diagram of the knowledge graph. Very big subject. Basically, you have entities, concepts, things, places, all of which are a node. They all have characteristics, and they're all joined to each other with relationships. That is, I've been told off for saying this, but I think it's a very good way of saying it. It's Google's understanding of the world. For the moment, it's still quite rudimentary, but machine learning is allowing it to expand this at an incredible rate. If you look at machine learning, I won't go into the details, but there are three different levels. Supervised, in this case it would be Wikipedia, i.e. you know what's going in, it's been checked by human beings, and we're sure of the data. Semi-supervised, which is we have some information that we've checked, some that we haven't, and some that we can extrapolate. Non-supervised learning is when it's going to be able to scrape the web and understand on its own. It won't need human beings to tell it which information is right, which information isn't right, and what the conclusions that it should be drawing are. Choosing the best solution. If you think about reviews, it seems very easy, but they're very, very easy to game. Chatter on social media, that's a very good signal, but it's vast amounts of information. Think how many tweets go out every second, how many Facebook posts. Problem for Google there is it's only partial information. If it can catch all that information, it's good to go. If it can analyze the sentiment of that information, of what people are saying, it's good to go. To understand if a brand has a good image in the eyes of its own customers. Press, that's the easy one. But we've moved away from links, and we've moved towards mentions. If somebody mentions my company, CaliCube Pro, they don't need to put a link as long as Google has understood who CaliCube Pro is. So you're looking at what we now say is linkless links. I think that's a weird way of saying it, but it makes its point. You don't need a link anymore, as long as Google has understood who you are. So that's branding. And the last one is user behavior, which is a big one, because once again, it's vast amounts of data. It has that data, it can now store it, and it can analyze it in real time as the user's wandering around the web, and draw conclusions from it in real time for that person's micro moment. Google used the word micro moment an awful lot, but it is actually a micro moment because you're looking at data rivers, data flows. You're not looking at data lakes. So it's saying, in this instant, that person needs this answer and not that answer. The rise and rise of voice search. This is kind of fun. I looked at it and I said, right, okay, we've got an evolution. We've moved to mobile. We're all still struggling with that, but we're now going to have to struggle with a new one without having actually yet mastered this one as far as I can see in general. And I've put a figure of 70% by the mid-2020s. That seems big. Who thinks that's big? Too big? ComScore estimated 50% by 2020. Maybe too big. I'll see if I can make it seem a little less too big. I might just be being too optimistic. Here are the guys that are doing it at the moment. Voice assistants, they're the flavor of the month. Everyone's talking about them. You've got Siri. Sorry, you've got the Apple Pod on Siri. You've got Alexa, excuse me, Google, and Cortana. Who's got one of these? All right. Oh dear, I've got two. Shame on me. I've got one of the two in the middle. One of each of the two in the middle. And Just a really quick point about this. There are only two search engines behind these, Bing and Google. Here you've got Bing, here you've got Bing, here you've got Google, and here you've got Google. So there's actually two players in the market. But there is actually a third, very quickly, IBM. They have all the technology, they have have the data, but they can do voice recognition. We don't know where they're going to play, but they've just come into this market. And everybody's on board. I found this one, the yummy robot computer, voice assistant, sorry. Claire, JBL, Sony, who else is there up there? Lenovo, thank you. That will be the question at the end. No, it won't. But it's not just music. We all associate that today with music, but these are now players. This one, who's that? That's Alexa with a screen. And you can ask it to show you things. It's really cool. I've got one of those too. These three, I think it's Sony, LG, and JBL. They're all running Google, and they're all coming out this summer. Basically what you do is you put them in your kitchen. This one's asking for a recipe, and it will show you a picture and talk you through the recipe, for example. So we're moving away from just this simple idea of starting music, which is what's driving it right now. It's, come on Google, play me some music, and it will light up Spotify and you're away. This takes it a big step forward. But you've also got cars, fridges. It's all over the place. So voice search, or voice interaction with these machines is absolutely everywhere, and voice search is just one step behind. I'll let you look at these. I think you know what they are. That's an animation I got from Google. And when I looked at it, I kind of thought, yeah, hadn't thought of it that way. I thought of that one. That's new. Thought of that one, but I didn't think of that one. Didn't think of that one, and I didn't think of that one. And that's just today. So, does it look a little bit less unlikely? So can somebody put their hand up? Thank you. So I've convinced some of you. Maybe not 70%, maybe 60%. It doesn't really matter, because all three will live side by side. You will still have people on computers typing. You will still have people on mobile phones typing. And this, you will definitely have. But I think we're going to quickly get used to just talking to our machines. And the quicker you get used to talking to a machine, the more boring it is to type. I was tweeting earlier on for SEO Camp. I can't talk here, so I had to type it. And I've forgotten how to type. So why does that rise in voice search matter so much? Why is it so incredibly important to SEO in particular? Voice search is the next big thing, my current favourite topic. It's more verbose, and we talk more. If I want to get a pizza, on that I'd say, pizza. Here I would say, I'd like a pepperoni pizza, but it's really cheap. And Google, if it has the information, could come up with the nearest pizzeria that does pepperoni pizza. So I can be more specific. So you're going to end up with a lot of long tail queries which are very specific to a particular person at a particular moment, who's looking not for a choice of solutions, but the solution. The answer. We're looking for answers, and that's what they want to give us. Whoever can give us the best answer the quickest is going to win the game. Top spot rules. Why didn't I put position 0? Yeah, partly. It's called the feature snippet, it's the answer box, it's position 0, it's what's at the top at the moment. There's nothing to say that that's going to be the thing tomorrow, or the day after, or the day after. What I'm saying is, top spot, whether it's 0, 1, -1, it doesn't really matter, but it's top spot. So I prefer to talk about top spot rules. If you're not number 1, top spot. If you're not top spot, you're nowhere. In short, voice, the rise of voice and machine learning allows these two machines, and perhaps IBM, but not so sure, understand intent, understand the offers that are available, evaluate the quality of those offers, and to objectively, in inverted commas of course, because nothing is truly objective, give the best result. Give the answer. They're answer engines. And in an answer, there is only one, and it needs to be you. So, new problem. We've got to optimize for this idea of answer engines. If they're only going to give one answer, it has to be us. It can't be somebody else. What's Google looking for? That's the first place, or the place to start. What does it want? It wants to understand. It wants to understand who you are, what you do, what you offer, and how you deliver it. And it wants credibility. It wants to know that you are a credible solution for its users. And I think that's something we all forget far too often. When we're talking about SEO or even SEA, the people we're appealing to are not our clients or our prospects. They're not people who are wandering around without any attachment. They're Google's clients. All Google wants to do is satisfy them, because every time Google satisfies them quickly and efficiently, they'll come back and do the next search on Google. Why did Bing lose an awful lot of its market share? Because it wasn't as good at Google as giving the right choice of answers. Why is it going to lose the next battle? If it doesn't manage to give the best answers. So, very logical. If Google's to consider, even think about putting you on top spot, it has to understand what it is you offer. It can't show somebody something it isn't sure is the right answer as an answer. It can only show it as an option. Secondly, if it understands you and your competitors, you both do pepperoni pizza, it needs to know which one's the most credible. It will place the most credible solution, the one that will satisfy, is most probable to satisfy its user. It will place the most credible one at the top. So what should you be doing? You should communicate. To convince. It's up to you. It's up to you to do this part. Who knows better than you know what it is you do, how you do it, how you deliver it, and who better than you to point out to Google why you're the best? Now, all my clients, absolutely all of them, when I ask them, are you credible? They say, yeah, I'm the best. We all believe that. And I say, well, can you prove it? Yeah, my mum says so. Yeah, my client says so. Yeah, I got an email from my client yesterday. Okay, can Google see that? No, he can't. Will he believe them? Will he believe your mother? No, he won't. Sorry, I'm saying here, it might be a she. Or it might be an it. Like a dog or a cat. So you have to convince it. You have to bring together the information that is convincing about your credibility and feed it to Google. For the communicating part, you need to bring the information together, communicate it to Google in a manner that Google can understand. So, in the new world of answer engines, communication and convincing are your most powerful tools. So we're getting into the idea of a strategy. The idea of having powerful tools. Powerful tools are communicating and convincing, and the aim that you're aiming to achieve, what you're trying to achieve with those two tools, is to give Google understanding and convince it of your credibility. In short, you all think it's finished now, don't you? But it's not. It's two sides of the same coin. Communicate and convince, that's you guys. Understanding and credibility, Google's point of view. I had a doctor once who said, when you're feeling down in the dumps meaning unhappy, look at that, you say, yeah, nice green light, turn it over, no green light. Piece of paper, he used the idea of a piece of paper. Look at it like that, it's got writing on it, look at it that, it doesn't. So it's a question of a point of view, which is incredibly important to how you're feeling and what you're trying to do. I don't think the doctor story was a very good one. I think I'll drop that for the next one. Google wants to understand, so it's your job to communicate. And these words come back again and again and again, and I'll remind you that this whole kind of idea is on the articles on SEMrush. It digs into much more detail than I can here today. Google seeks credibility, and it's your job to convince it. Here we go. AEO strategy, communicate and convince. It's incredibly simple. Now, what I like about this is that in SEO, for years and years and years, you take all the SEO things we can do, and building a strategy for a client was actually quite complicated, and trying to give them a strategy, communicate a strategy that they could understand and they could follow, was something that I personally found very difficult. This is really easy to communicate to your client. So if you're saying everything we do needs to serve either understanding or credibility, it either needs to communicate or it needs to convince, you can slot everything into one of those boxes or both of those boxes, and your client can understand why it is they are doing this thing. And it's not just saying, oh, I'm going to gain one place for one keyword. It's, I'm going to build this foundation and build it over time, and it becomes a strategy and not just a set of tactics. Communicate. There you go. It's one of my favourite, another of my favourite things at the moment. Who knows schema markup? Everybody, cool. Do you all use JSON LD? Okay, I only use it because it's my name, which I loved. One of my clients actually said to me, you're only recommending that because it's your name. But it wasn't. It wasn't just for that reason, but I think it's pretty cool. What's interesting about schema is, I read an article the other day on search metrics. The idea of schema is it's a way, if we look back at the machine learning part of the talk, and I was talking, sorry, about excuse me, unsupervised, supervised, and semi-supervised learning. This is supervised, i.e. we are giving Google information in a format that is labeled and complete, or hopefully complete, and confirmed by a human being. Obviously, it has to check that information, but it's still supervised. So here we're looking at supervised learning, and now who can tell Google best about what it is you do, who you are, how you do it? It's you, and you put this on your site, and it's brilliant. You put this on your site, and you immediately explain to Google in a language it can understand who you are, what it is you do, how you do it. HTML5. Who's been using HTML5? Okay, about the same number. Why is HTML5 interesting? I'm talking about semantic HTML5. That's the part, basically. I'm a big fan of structural semantic HTML5. Basically, you set out to Google instead of using divs, you use header, nav, article, section, aside, footer. And what you're doing, is saying to the robot, this part is the header with the menu, with the navigation in it. Here's my article, and here's the main core of the content. And it allows Google to concentrate on that and not waste its time on the rest. And earlier on, Bart was talking about expense of JavaScript. He seemed to be talking about the expense in terms of CPU usage, but I would also argue we're talking about expense in terms of Google's resources. Google is a commercial company. You waste its resources, you're costing it money. Why would it reward you? You save it money. By saving it resources, it will reward you. My experience has been this has a very positive effect reasonably quickly, but is also very, very important to allow Google to keep coming back to your site and keep seeing where things are and what role they play in the page. Semantics is all about the role that these things play in the page. What does it do? What role does it play? Is it the main content? Is it navigation? Is it a side? Is it a related aside? Is it an unrelated aside? That concentration of Google, if you go back here, these two tools together, two things you can put on your website tomorrow, if you've got a really good developer, and immediately communicate exactly what it is you do and who you are. But you can also do it here. And here, I would recommend the EV certificate, simply because it reconfirms by a third party, through a third party, because these require you to be confirmed by the issuer according to your, it's on certain websites where you have been registered, especially with governments. Costs more money, but it's a very, very strong signal. These three, has anyone heard of NAPS? N-A-P? Okay, so it's a local search thing. It's name, address, phone number. And basically the theory is, well, in fact, the fact is, if you go around every single reference to your company and make sure that the name, the address, and the phone number are exactly the same, you rise in the rankings, you get better results in local search. Same thing here, except it's not local. It's global. So you go around every single account you control, and you make sure that the name, not necessarily the address and the phone number, but the name and the information and the message you're giving out is exactly the same. Consistency brings understanding. Now, obviously, up to here, all we've done is I've gone round and I've said, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I sell, and this is how I do it. Why would he believe me? You need all that. You need Wikipedia, or you don't need Wikipedia, but if you can get Wikipedia, it's great. Traditional press, government departments, Crunchbase, Wikidata, so on and so forth. Basically, you need third parties that are trusted by Google who confirm what it is you're saying. Once you get that, it's confident that it's understood, and it will tend to show that information with much more authority. The next step is to convince it. So we're looking at credibility here. It's now understood us, and we've had third parties confirm what it is we do, and we've used our NAPs, i.e. making sure the information is coherent across all the platforms, to ensure that Google believes us. And sorry, one very quick point about that. I've done this on my own name and my own website, and what I've found is after 3 years, sorry, it takes an awfully long time, when I put information on my website, Apple, Bing, and Google all pick it up and present it as fact. Once it believes you, once it trusts you, it doesn't take the time to verify until after the fact. So obviously the one thing I should not do now is lie or exaggerate, because then it will stop trusting me. So you gain trust, and then you can actually feed it information. It becomes a very nice cycle. Now, convincing with credibility, I put up my 5 stars there. The first one is really obvious, it's reviews. You want to get reviews. You want to get it on the best platforms that you can. There are loads out there. There's Trustpilot in the front room there. There's also Avis Verifié in France if you're just a French company. But don't just stick to one. I mean, a lot of my clients, I say to them, you know, let's get some reviews, and they go, well, I don't like Trustpilot, or I don't like Avis Verifié, or I don't like another platform. What you should do is search for your brand name plus the word review, and concentrate on the platforms that come up top. Because those are the platforms that Google believes are most pertinent in the judgment of the credibility of your brand. Once you've done that, you can start doing other things. Also, don't forget with reviews that you can get journalists' reviews, you can get, what are they called, when a newspaper will go through your product and give it a rating. So reviews, ratings, review platforms, as many as you can. And once you've got, let's say 4 out of 5, so we'll go back there. Once you've got 4 out of 5, I've put 5 stars, it was a bit stupid of me. Once you've got 4 out of 5, or 8 out of 10, or 80%, anything above there is more or less the same. What you need is quantity. Everybody who's any good gets in somewhere between 8 or 9. Some people get a little bit more than 9. Basically, a difference between, if I had to choose between 8.5 and 1,000 reviews, or 8.2 and 10,000 reviews, I would choose the 10,000 reviews every single time. Volume, quantity proves over and over again that you are a credible solution for Google's users. Next, social media, chatter. I think a lot of people have talked about this. Google's capable of crawling an enormous amount of information, and it can analyze sentiment incredibly easily, and it's very good at it. Earlier on there, I think it was, we were talking about saying shit hot. Shit hot sounds negative because of the word shit, but in fact, Google gets that now. It isn't very complicated. Slang's fine. The word vectors thing from earlier on allows it to figure all this out. The vast amounts of data it's got allows it to figure this out. You need to get chatter, positive chatter from your users, from your clients, potentially from, and reply to them, excuse me. One thing I do see a lot is companies just letting people talk about their products on social media, on their social account, and not replying. Whether it's good or bad, try and reply as much as you can. And the last one, this is supposed to be a thought leader. Don't know if that makes sense. Once again, we've got the newspapers and the more traditional press. Once again, Wikipedia. Wikipedia is very important, but it isn't the be-all and end-all. It's not because you don't have a Wikipedia page that you cannot be in the knowledge graph, that you cannot be understood. I hear a lot, if I want to be in the knowledge graph, I have to have a Wikipedia page. That is not true. If we think back to machine learning, supervised, semi-supervised, Wikipedia is supervised, Google's now onto semi-supervised. It can extrapolate. I have many examples of companies that don't have Wikipedia pages that are physically in the knowledge graph. Google understands and is confident it has understood. All of this, corroboration, which is a really long word that I can hardly say, confirmation, corroboration, actually also feeds back into the understanding, because every time that these people confirm what industry you're in, what it is you do, they're confirming also the understanding that Google has had. Oh, sorry, well, this is the last one. User behavior, which is the really big one. A lot of people think it's the nirvana. If you can get Googles to behave, i.e. coming onto your site, staying on your site, dwell time, the number of pages they see, whether or not they do the same search again, you're going to win the game. And I think that's probably very true. Given the amount of data Google can analyze, can store, and the speed at which it can do it, and the machine learning capabilities it now has, that seems to me very, 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 very likely. What about SEO tactics that we use today? They remain crucial. Basically, they should all be integrated into your AEO strategy. They all fit into one or the other of these two pillars, sometimes both. Question. This isn't the mug question. Which traditional SEO tactic doesn't fit this strategy? None. I'm happy to talk about it afterwards. I might be wrong, there might be one, but I can't think of one. I haven't found one yet. Every single SEO tactic I've used so far, or I'm using at the moment, fits into this strategy, one pillar or the other. I'm a chess player, which is why I was so obsessed by Garry Kasparov losing to IBM. Our favourite SEO tactics, I mean, I'm thinking about that as a rook move, really simple, but it's not an entire game. It's not a strategy. It's a thing we can do. That is a strategy. Our favourite SEO tactics are now subservient to this AEO strategy. What changes, or what's important, what's the different, why we would use one tactic above another, is the relative importance to that within this strategy, i.e. has Google understood or not? Which part has it understood or not? Does it believe we're credible or not? Have we got reviews, or do we need more reviews, or do we need more articles, or do we need better user behaviour? What about the short term? Ooh, this is a client of mine. We installed HTML5 and schema here 6 months ago. I think positive effect. They've gone from, I mean, I don't know if any of you can read this. Yeah? It's clear to you or not? This idea here, impressions against clicks. Relatively speaking, we're getting many more clicks per impression, and we're also getting more impressions. Google likes HTML5 and schema, and one of the reasons for that is it doesn't yet understand the world, and schema helps it understand the world, and it is not yet capable to release its machines to do unsupervised learning. It still needs this supervised learning. Takeaway, and I think I'm pretty much in the time. In the new world of ad engines, understanding and credibility, that's Google's point of view. It's what matters most by far. Every single SEO tactic you use should serve one or the other of these pillars. For you, it's up to you to communicate and to convince. Thank you.